What's going on, it's Suck and I'm back with a brand new video on SuperDuprTech, and in today's video I shall be showing you the results that I got when benchmarking the 2022 iPhone SE. We are on the road to 5,000 subscribers, and if you are new around here then I must ask you to hit the subscribe button, clicking the bell to be notified of when I upload any of my new videos. Without any further ado, let's hit the titles. The first test I ran on this iPhone SE, as you would expect, was GeekBench 5. This is designed to test how well the CPU portion of the A15 system on a chip performs. With its 6-core CPU design, the A15 has 2 high performance and 4 high efficiency cores. So this test will run several different tests and algorithms and score the iPhone based on its performance and the time taken to complete these tasks. It will then give a score for a single high performance CPU core, along with testing the multi-core performance. For this iPhone SE, we got a single core score of 1728, and when testing the combined 6 cores of the CPU, we got a multi-core score of 4747, which is approximately both a 27 and 50% improvement on what we got with the previous iPhone SE model. The next test I ran was once again from GeekBench 5, but this time from their compute lineup of tests, which are designed to test the performance of the system on chip's GPU. It is worth noting that this iPhone SE has 4 graphics cores, much like what we see with the iPhone 13 and 13 mini. So for this test, we got scores of 12,120, which is interesting as the iPhone 13 scored 11,233, which is 7% more. Perhaps this is due to the lower screen resolution on the iPhone SE. Also, when compared to the previous iPhone SE released in 2020, we see approximately a 50% improvement compared to this model. The next lineup of tests which I ran on this iPhone SE were once again from GeekBench, but this time from their new lineup of machine learning tests, which are designed to run on the CPU, GPU and the Core ML portion of the A15, being the neural engine. Now the results that I got for this test are now on screen, as this is a new test which Primate Labs has released just within the last 12 months. I haven't had a chance to test it yet on all of the previous models. So what I've done is taken the scores from their webpage for the other models and have compared them here. This will probably open your eyes as to how well Apple have been positioning themselves, not only when it comes to their previous devices, but also to their competition, not only in a similar price range, but also when it comes to comparing other flagship devices, which this iPhone SE is the most powerful and capable smartphone, at least when compared to those in its price range. We always hear from Apple whenever they unveil new silicon about the advancements that they've made to the neural engine, and I'm sure this explains why this is the case. I mean, if the CPU isn't dealing with these tasks, then it can do other things, thus making the device feel more responsive. So the scores that I got for when running these machine learning tasks through the CPU was 900. And for those run on the GPU, I got a score of 2038, and when running these machine learning tasks through the neural engine, I got a score of 2690. I think you'll find these graphs speak for themselves. Now I know running benchmarks are no way of seeing how these devices behave in the real world, but small things like being able to detect faces and objects within an image and suggest who to send these images to or create a shared album with will no doubt feel snappier and more faster on an iPhone than most other Android devices, especially those in the price range that this iPhone SE is currently sat in. The next test that I ran was designed to test how this iPhone SE performs graphically. So I ran GFXBench Metal, which is designed to test both on and off-screen graphics horsepower, and given this iPhone doesn't have the highest resolution screen, I would imagine it to perform very well. So I've calculated the average for both lower and higher intensive tasks, and as always I will show you each individual result. For the higher intensive graphical tasks, I got a frame rate of 85.32 frames per second, whereas for the lower I got a score of 181.23 frames per second. I then ran the Antutu Benchmark. Now this is designed to test several different aspects of the A15, from the CPU, the GPU, the system memory, and even the storage. And then based on how they perform, it will then grade the device with a score. So for this iPhone SE, I got a score of 644,640. I also ran the HTML test from Antutu and got a score of 59,775. As always, I ran a network speed test, testing both the Wi-Fi and, this time new to the iPhone SE, the 5G speeds. Simply put, I got Wi-Fi speeds of 101 megabits per second and an upload speed of 12.3 megabits per second, which is quite a lot less than what I was expecting, as I'm currently paying for a download speed of 200 megabits per second. And when I pulled out my iPhone 12 Pro Max, I got download speeds of 220 megabits per second and an upload of 18.6. So I'm not sure why this is the case with this iPhone SE. When running the same test, but this time testing the 5G cellular connectivity, I got a download speed of 194 megabits per second and an upload of 43.5 megabits per second, which is certainly higher than what we saw when running this test over Wi-Fi. But hey, I did pull out my iPhone 12 Pro Max once again, and on this phone I got download speeds over 300 megabits per second and upload speeds of 20.9 megabits per second. The next series of tests which I ran on this iPhone SE were purely graphically based, coming from 3D Mark. The first test that I ran on this iPhone SE was their wildlife graphics test. Now with this, I got a score of 7,038, and after getting this score, I decided to run the wildlife stress test. Now with this, I got a high score of 6,733, whereas the lowest score that I got here was 5,367, which when compared to running this test on its own and getting a score of 7,038 to getting 5,367 when the device was stressed the most, that's around a 27% drop in performance, which is quite shocking, and we could potentially get higher scores if this iPhone had, some sort of vapor chamber to help dissipate the heat away from that A15. I pretty much did the same thing, this time running the Wildlife Extreme graphics test, which, as the name would imply, is a more intensive set of tasks which are designed to run at a higher resolution. When running this test, I got a score of 1,759, and then when I ran the Wildlife Extreme stress test, the high score that I got here, surprisingly enough, was 2,454, and the lowest that I got here was 1,468, which once again is a massive change in performance of over 50%. Perhaps placing this more powerful chip in a smaller device with an inadequate cooling option is impacting the device's performance quite a lot. The final test I ran on this iPhone was an export of a 4K video file. Previously, I had been able to export these projects at a range of different resolutions, but this doesn't seem to be the case now, with it only allowing me to export the video footage in the resolution which they are imported in. The video project had a length of 5 minutes and 24 seconds, and this 4K export took 3 minutes and 30 seconds, which is around the same time as the 2020 iPhone SE. So I'm not sure why this is the case. I would have thought it would have been faster. I've got a sneaky feeling that this could potentially have something to do with maybe some media engines or anything that's encoding or decoding stuff on the chips. Potentially that's not really changed, but yeah, does anyone know why this is the case? So if you'd like to see this device's cameras tested, compared and then reviewed, then be sure to subscribe clicking the bell to be notified of when new videos go live. Of course, if you have any video suggestions or anything you would like to see tested, then be sure to let me know by hitting me up over on Twitter and Instagram or leaving a comment down below. Of course, links to my social media can be found down below in this video's description. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care and have a good one.